All right, folks. So this is the first time I do this kind of video, which is basically a wrap up of my whole fucking year. And you know what happens when I do wrap ups is that I tend to ramble and talk forever. So this is going to be a challenge for me to tell you about every single book that I read this year, which is luckily not that many. Well, like not that many as I used to. This year I read 60 books, which actually it's a significant amount. It amounts to sort of like one book a week, which is pretty good. Like I'm proud of myself. That's pretty good. That's nice. So I'm like, okay, we can talk about it. And we're gonna try to talk about all of them in less than 60 minutes because 60 minutes would be way too long and I'm already rambling right now. There are many books in this that I actually completely forgot I read, so I don't even remember if I can tell you what they were about. I know I can tell you whether I like them or not, and the brief sort of edges, and maybe I shall dive deeper into the ones that were really good. And also, my favorite books of the year video, the fiction edition, is also going to be talking more in depth about the ones that I actually did love, so I don't have to go through that. But I have here my list from my Goodreads app of my challenge. So I explicitly challenged myself less books this year. I started writing more, which is also not such a bad thing. And talking about writing before I get into everything, I actually relaunched my Substack where you can find my writings. You'll find the link below. It's called Notes from the Prism. It's about beauty, eroticism, the art of becoming, the motion of becoming ourselves, and the little deaths that we die every second, every moment, every hour, every day, every book we read that fortifies our being and our identity that then crumbles down because there is no fixed identity. And that's what these books remind us. So the first book I read this year was Mount Olive, which is the third installment of the Alexandria Quartet by Lawrence Durrell. So this book was published in 1957. It's set in Alexandria in Egypt just after World War II. So, you know, you got the setting, mystery, intrigue, political shit, a lot of people fucking, and their sort of drama unfolding and the intensity of that and how those storylines converge and all that. And this one, the Mount Olive, so that's the third installment of the book, I didn't like that much. I love the first one, which was Justine. I think it was, so it goes like Justine, Balthazar, Mount Olive, and the last one is Clea, which I do want to read actually. It's like a very flourishing, beautiful prose, but I didn't like this one specifically. I mean, I learned a lot from it, but I found it a bit boring. I think it wasn't the moment for me to read it. It was specifically about this English-British diplomat that was sort of getting involved into the affairs of a very powerful figure in Alexandria at the time. It's spy shit. If you really like historical novels that are mixing sort of like the passions and psychology of human dynamics within the backdrop of, you know, the city of knowledge, all right, that grandeur, then this book might be for you. But sadly, I don't remember much of it because I was kind of asleep the whole time. What can I say? Anyway, next I read The Democracy of Species by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I've been wanting to read this for a long time. No, that's not the one I wanted to read for a long time. No, actually, there's another book, Braiding Sweetgrass, from her is a book I wanted to read for a long time, but I haven't yet. So I decided to go for a smaller one. This is like essay length. It is about preservation. It's about nature. So she's very much an activist in terms of, preserving good old Mother Earth. What was interesting about this, I think, was really about like the reclamation of language of North American native tribes. And this whole concept of basically giving to the land as much as you take from it. So it is a critique of our time, the critique of how we're pillaging the earth, and how we really have no more ethical basis or even just like basic decency in terms of how we give back to the earth. She explores all these concepts from her, completely forgot what kind of specific native culture it was. It was actually a really good read, but I couldn't tell you more of the details, sadly. This is how the brain works. But at least I got the essence. And the essence is, if you chop a tree, plant two. Then I read a really good book, actually. I love this book so much. It's called One Long River of Song, Notes on Wonder by Brian Doyle. He was America's best kept secret. There's many of those, apparently. But he wrote a bunch of essays in his life. I actually think I was quite inspired by his style. I've read a lot of essays that were really very long. For my own Substack, I kind of wanted to find an angle writing about, for me, what I find important topics, philosophical topics, sort of like reveling in the wonders of the world and of the particularities and the wonders of being a human being, but without going too much in detail, right? And that's what he does in this sweet little collection. So they're like little essays. They're all often like 1 to 2 pages, but they sort of grip you like so much. And there's actually one essay in this that pushed me to tears. I thought it was wonderful. It's about humility. It's called The Last Frontier. It's about like how you got to do your best as a human being. You just got to do your best, even though you have no proof that it'll be worth it. You have to kind of believe that doing your best, being a good parent, being a good friend is enough. More than enough. And that's sort of like your responsibility in this little planet. And that humility is maybe the thing that will save us, but the thing that we sort of struggle with the most. The ultimate battle between ego and the self that is actually connected to love and people and family and all of that. The title suggests what it suggests. It is Notes on Wonder. And I love that, and it was very inspiring. Then I read The Imposium, a health resort horror story, a novel by Olga Tokarczuk, which I rated 4 stars. I liked this, but I was kind of bored by it. It was my first Olga Tokarczuk. There's actually one I really want to read of hers. I talked about this in a few past videos, and some of you were saying actually that this wasn't exactly like her other novels. She's a Polish author. She won the Nobel Prize one of these years, and this was sort of like a retelling of The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann, which I haven't read, which I really want to read before I die. And it's like a feminist retelling. It's about a bunch of like male assholes that are sick and that have like lung diseases and that are in this like alpine health resort, and it's kind of eerie, and it is a horror story, and there's sort of like weird things going on. And I don't know, I was just so pissed off by the characters that I kind of like didn't really enjoy reading it as much because it gave me too much rage, I guess. I still rated it 4 stars, so there is some merit. Then we have No Man's Land, Living Between Two Cultures, which is a very, very tiny book, basically an essay, by Anne East, which I rated 3 stars. I did not like this so much. I thought it was too, like, complainy, kind of whiny. It's basically about like the situation of many people in this like globalized world, which is, you know, coming from 2 countries, from 2 cultures. Specifically for her, I think she's Southeast Asian, though she doesn't disclose where exactly in Southeast Asia, which I think is the whole point, and about living in Britain as a half Southeast Asian person. I think the particularity is that she actually is disconnected from her roots. She doesn't really know her family there or know the culture. So this sort of like dissociation from her cultural identity is even more intense. But what I find lacking in these sort of narratives these days, or at least these essays that sort of tackle this, is sort of this one-sided kind of like self-righteous aspect to it, which I didn't enjoy. I don't like that. I think there's more to explore there. There's beyond the fact of like, oh, I'm misunderstood because of this and that, and because I'm projected upon, which is all true, not to obviously like, I am also in that situation. I grew up in France. I'm half Filipino. I completely sort of like understand her point of view, but I do think that it doesn't really help to sort of just like be like, boo-hoo, look at me. I know I'm really being mean now, but you know, sometimes it's good to be a hater. I talk about all the books that I love, but you know, it's nice to be able to like rage a bit about the books I didn't love so much. Anyway, then I read 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and I loved it. Sadly, I don't think I read it at the right time in my life. So I might want to give it another try at some point. It's still a masterpiece. I still rated it 5 stars. It just took me a really long time to finish because it's like 500 pages or something. It's a really big novel. It's an epic family saga. It's following this family. But there were just too many Jose Arcadios and too many like Colonel Aurelianos. But I still thought it was like magical, and there were still moments where it was like wrapped and I was like, whoa, what is happening? Because you don't really know because it's magical realism. I love reading about like this whole like family drama, and all of a sudden there's a chair that's flying or something, and you're like, what is happening? There's like 2 ghosts just waltzing around, and they're like, well, okay, now we're just haunted by these 2 ghosts that are just gonna stare at us. Fuck, you know, that's interesting. Actually, it's cool. Then we have Playground by Richard Powers. I love this book so much. I talked about it in my favorite books of the year. Long story short, it's about Todd and Raffi who meet at college, and one of them becomes a tech billionaire and the other one becomes an artist that is kind of against the whole like Silicon Valley stance. And there's this big project, like a big technological project, basically transforming one of these like Pacific islands, Pacific atolls in the middle of the Pacific, into an experiment, into a playground, into a self-sufficient city. humanity, because maybe we're going towards a world that will not be able to actually function in the way that it should function because we've tinkered with it so much. It's a beautiful, interesting, very probing, thought-inducing book about whether our hubris and creative ingenuity is not going to lead to our demise, or whether it can actually have the potential to save us in some way. Maybe the only way is to try to tame the forces within us and to tame our hubris and to find the balance. But, you know, who knows? Ooh, then we have The Art Thief, which is a true story of love, crime, and a dangerous obsession. This is nonfiction. I love this book. I had a lot of fun with this book. This is a great book for any time in your life. Great beach read. It's basically a crazy story about this thief, one of the biggest art thieves, I think, of European history. He's a French guy. I don't remember his name. He had a weird name. His kink, it's probably a kleptomaniac. His kink was just to, like, steal very specific artworks from various museums and old churches all around Europe, mostly in France, but also he went to Germany and in the vicinity of Western Europe. And he would just like find a way somehow very, very skillfully steal those very valuable artworks. And he had a sidekick, a bit of this Bonnie and Clyde vibe, who was his girlfriend and something, I keep forgetting their names. But anyway, they would just go on heists every weekend. They would get high on that. The only thing he would do with it was just compile this art. Basically, he was living in his mother's attic or something. He had like his own private apartment there, and he would just like put it all over the wall and just like watch it. He was just like probably just getting turned on by hoarding all of this art. And he's a bit of a weirdo. And the guy, Michael Finkel, decided to write a book about him, and this was a delicious read. He's one of these books you're just like, yeah, you want an easy read, but it's also really interesting and also kind of fucked up. This is the book for you. Then I read Fair Play by Tove Jansson, a Scandinavian book. It is about two old women being friends and just kind of like living their lives. One of them, I think, is a writer, and the other one is a visual artist. And I think it's based also on the author's, her own relationship with her wife. And it's about their friendship, sort of like staying in and watching a movie, like quarrels and like little misadventures on trips and fishing trips. And they're very short chapters, but it's all light and wonderful, and they have the funniest conversations, and it's just all good vibes. I love this so much. One of my favorites of this year. And then I read a really interesting book because of its form called Concerning the Future of Souls, 99 Stories of Azrael, which is the god of death, I think. And these are vignettes, like very short vignettes, like a paragraph each, 99 short paragraphs. This is completely my jam, actually. I love this stuff. Some vignettes are like philosophical digressions of the god of death talking to like a philosopher or something. And then sometimes it's just this random story of a boy that dies. It's like all super random and scattered, but written very beautiful prose. I like this book. I rated it 4 stars. My Friends by Hisham Matar. I didn't put this in my favorite books of the year, though it was a really good novel. And it's about a Libyan guy who is sort of exiled in the UK. It's about exile. It's about him finding other friends and other writers who are in exile. Again, it's about cultural identity. It's about finding your place. It's about inhabiting a culture that isn't yours while still being tethered to one that doesn't, or that can't give you a good life, where your family is also stuck there, and a very important role of literary dissidence. This was a very good novel. Highly recommend it. Kind of weird that I didn't talk about it in my favorite books, but now I remember. Then we have Italo Calvino, 6 Memos for the Next Millennium, which is basically his lectures on writing. This was cerebral. If you like books on writing, this is one that has to go on your shelf. But other than that, I don't really remember what else to tell you about this. But I rated it 4 stars. After which I read Joy Harjo's A Map to the Next World, which is Poems and Tales. I've read a few of her books. She's a poet, I think the first Native American to win the Poet Laureate of the United States. She writes beautiful poems. She's very spiritual. She has a very incantory, spell-like mysticism about her poems and her poetry. She's a mystic, and you can feel it. She also is a musician. I think I discovered her actually when I was doing this masterclass, The Art of Poetry, and I was mesmerized. I was mesmerized by her energy and by her total devotion to her craft. It is what the title suggests. It is a map to the next world, what we're transitioning into. And I've been talking about this theme for a while, transitioning to a world of hyper technology and how we might lose connection to the land and with one another. Maybe we will find connection in some way because of that. Or maybe we will live in some islands where some of us will live in hyper connection, still sort of trying to preserve that. But at the same time, many of us, as we are already experiencing, are living extremely disconnected and hyper-individualistic. But I love that she explores these themes in a very poetic way, so it doesn't make it heavy, but it does make it very emotional. Next, you have Invisible Cities, again, Italo Calvino. Invisible Cities is basically Marco Polo talking to Kublai Khan about a bunch of different cities. And all of these cities have names of women. And so he describes his cities as these living organisms, and they're so different and weird and very strange, very surrealist as well. And the particularity of it is that they are definitely cities that don't exist, but it kind of makes you question, like, what can a city be? What can it become? What does a city represent? Freud was saying that cities were a symbol of the psyche because so many things were happening in cities and there were so many layers in it. The interesting thing about this book is that all of these cities are actually just different descriptions of Venice, apparently, which seems to be a very enticing city. So then we have The Road, Cormac McCarthy, post-apocalyptic novel. Father and son go camping and cannibals carry the fire. There is still hope even in a bleak world, but it made me cry and it was really hard to read, but it was the most devastatingly beautiful novel. I still have the shakes thinking about it. Then you have Spring by Karl One Knausgaard. He did like this seasonal quartet. He wrote like autumn, winter, spring, and summer, and they're all kind of different, but they're all sort of like vignettes of random topics. But this one, Spring in particular, is about a day in the life of him as a father with his fourth baby, while his wife, the mother of the baby, is in a psychiatric hospital. We all know that Karl One Knausgaard actually wrote about his real life. So Linda Bostrom was his wife, and it was a bit like really intense to read, but it was interesting. It's nice to read about modern fatherhood. And that's what I like about Knausgaard, is that often his themes are around trying to be a writer, trying to write while taking care of his kids and while being a responsible dad. And so it's just him going about his day, having these conversations with a documentary maker that he meets, shenanigans he gets into, and forgetting his credit card at the gas station and being stuck at the gas station with no credit card and a baby and all those misadventures. And I loved it. I loved it. Oh, then I read La Grande Vie de Christian Bobin, which is a French book. I don't know if it's translated in English. I know that Christian Bobin has been translated in English, so I highly recommend his books. It's kind of niche. He's not even that popular in France. If you're really into poetry, the French poets would say, yes, of course, Christian Bobin. C'est un vrai poète, lui. Oui, oui, oui. He's beautiful. I don't know what it is about his writing. It's full of soul. You can feel like he's been to heaven and back. I mean, he's dead now, but yeah, it's intense. It's intense. It's poetic. It's poetry. It's poetry at its best and finest. What I love about him is the format of prose poetry. I really, really love prose poetry. And I love this. Then I read The Book of Laughter and Forgetting, Milan Kundera. It's set in communist-occupied Czechoslovakia. It's about memory and forgetting, obviously. It's about the narratives that keep us stuck, the narratives that keeps societies and communities stuck, fighting the fights of generations before that maybe have nothing to do with them. And it's about the ridiculous aspect of that as well. It's like a novel in interconnected stories. The characters and the themes are all connected. I'm going to say it again now, but what I love about Kundera's writing is really sort of like how he has this meta-awareness of his characters and how he would suddenly just talk about a scene and what's going on in their dialogue, and all of a sudden have this like very insightful observation about what the character is going through in their heads. The character is just saying like, oh, I want a biscuit, give me that biscuit, but actually he's thinking, I really want to. Oh my God, that was intense. That didn't really happen. I just made that up. I don't know what that says about me, but it was good. It's one of my favorite books. And then I read A Sport and a Pastime, James Salter. James Salter, very, 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 very good new discovery of an author. Beautiful prose. Beautiful prose. This was a love affair, a steamy, sexual, erotic, high erotic love affair between a Yale dropout and a shop girl in 60s France. Very, very nice vibes. The two people that are in the story are not the ones narrating the story. And the one narrating the story is this random guy, the random friend, a friend of the guy, the Yale dropout. And you're like, who is he? Where does he come from? What is his point? He has no point, seemingly. And yet he tells us, he discloses the most insane, sexual things that are going on in those closed rooms, which I think sort of like points towards the universality of falling in love and of that passion that happens between lovers in the very, very, very beginning. It was beautiful. Immortality, another Milan Kundera book. I don't really remember what this was. I just know that, again, Kundera was doing his thing. I remember thinking after I finished it, okay, I will read all of his books. I'm not generally a completist, but with a few authors, I will try to be a completist, and I think it will be for him. My review on Goodreads says, at this point, I can confidently say that I am in love with Kundera, or should I say his writing? Though who knows, maybe if I'd have met him, I might have fallen in love with him. Light Years, James Salter again, sublime. Above and beyond. This was beautiful. This was just devastatingly good writing. It's about a family. It's about a couple, Nandra and Viri, and their children and how they grow up, and they seemingly have a beautiful life and the beautiful house, and they have everything. It's the perfect tale of family and nuclear family and togetherness, and yet it's the slow disintegration of that. And maybe it just points towards the slow disintegration of the nuclear unit, which, as we know, has been a construct, a societal construct, as a natural sort of like consequence of industrialization and globalization. It's subtle, but he links it very much to consumer society and how those two things are linked. Think about it, nuclear families and consumer society. Cesar Aira, an episode in the life of a landscape painter. It's about a real guy, a real landscape painter in, I think, the 1700s who goes to South America, trekking in the jungle, doing these paintings, and some strange thing happens. I can't tell you more. I like this book. Another Tove Jansson book that I read, the summer book, which was exquisite. I love the simplicity of it. Sometimes you just want to read books that are just about a grandmother and her grandchild skittling around an island and swimming and talking about absurd things. I think what I love is that how deep it goes. She's a great grandma. She's like very, life is just life, and I'll just go do my thing, and very matter-of-factly grandma, right? And the little girl who's 6 and just keeps asking questions like, why this and why that and why death and this and that. It's a way to sort of like tackle these big themes in a sort of like light way, in a manner that doesn't make you want to immediately kill yourself, like what a Dostoevsky book maybe might want to do, right? Then I read The White Album by Joan Didion, which is an essay collection, one of her famous essay collections. I hadn't read it before. The first Joan Didion I read was Slouching Toward Bethlehem. I loved it. She writes about California in the West in her time, I think the 60s. Sharon Tate, when was that? Sharon Tate murder. Was it the 60s? But anyway, she was there. She wasn't there when she was murdered, but she was at the fringes of that society. She knew the people, and she wrote about it in a really interesting way. I thought like this, and then we make a little sound effect like ching. I have just transported and teleported. Hey! So this is a completely different frame. The furnace was furnacing. It was too hot. So yeah, we just kind of moved everything, and actually this is way more comfortable. So this is great. And I'm gonna continue talking about all of the books I've read this year with you. Sound check. And pretend it's just Sprite. Okay. The captain is out to lunch and the sailors have taken over the ship. This was shit. Who drinks Sprite? Nobody drinks Sprite. It's action when you're alive. Yes. Yeah, I don't like them. And then I read in my early 20s and I was like, I love this. Love does not defeat death. It is a wager again. Okay, I'm sorry. Get a dick, bitch. Our good old drunk misogynist poet. Get a dick, bitch. But because we're talking a lot about love, why are you doing that? What is it? What? No, what? What? Tell me. No, tell me now. No, tell me. I'm not waiting. What? Oh, okay. Now good? I think that's beautiful enough. Eat it. Bitch. Is it even in the shops? I'm asking a serious question. There you go. That's all I have to say.